Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Sonic the Hedgehog here, aka the Blue Blur, aka Blue Justice, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos, as you probably expected at this point in time. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Mario Kart 8 for the Nintendo Wii U, plus Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch, while we're still playing through the Booster Course Pass DLC. So, last time, we've essentially just managed able to win through the second and the final cup in Wave 1, and that's what appears to be by the forms of the Lucky Cat Cup. And overall, when it comes to Wave 1 in general, it was just a bit okay for starters, so as a result, hopefully for Wave 2 and onwards, it should be a little bit more better than the forms of how it does it for Wave 1 in my opinion, but I'm sure we'll discuss more about it if we get the actual thing started. So because of that, yeah, today for this video is about the fact that we're going to be continuing things on in the Booster Course Pass department, and this time we're going to be starting things off in Wave 2 selections of cups, ranging from Turnip Cup, and eventually until tomorrow, we'll hit on to the forms of the Propeller Cup. So for today's case, we are about to be tackling through the Turnip Cup next. So, and for the character choice this time around though, is that I think, suffice to say, we're also able to go ahead and select a yet another DLC character in the Deluxe version specifically. That's of course something to do with the forms of Jump Up Superstar. We'll go for Pauline. Oh yes, Pauline. I'm glad that she's actually, become playable in this game, as I've already mentioned about this before, ever since about last week or so. So because of that, and as far as card combination, as far as our models will choose, I'm also able to go for something a little bit more retro-based, ranging from, let's just say that it's entirely based off of Mario Kart 64 or Mario Kart Super Circuit card combination, and as far as glider is concerned, we'll make things a little bit more standard for ourselves, because yes, the actual status is a bit more balanced, so we'll go for it. So in some cases though, yeah, I need to press the L button right here, so that way we can get into the actual, the cup selection right here. So here we go, on to Turnip Cup. Now as far as I'm aware, Wave 2 did somehow first came out in during the forms of in August the 4th in 2022. So that's almost like 5 months after the events of Wave 1. So that was actually the longest gap that we might able to actually consider this. So anyway, without further ado, let's jump right into the Turnip Cup. And the first track we've got in that cup, and that's what appears to be New York Minute. And if you couldn't tell already, this track is obviously based off of Mario Kart Tour, and it's actually the first ever city course to be introduced in Mario Kart Tour back in 2019. So because of that, geez, been pretty crazy to think about the fact that recently Mario Kart Tour has officially became 5 years old since in Journey forms of about 2 months ago, so it's pretty crazy kind of think about it. So as we expected, we're able to go through certain sections for based off in the forms of New York minutes 1, 2, 3, and 4. So because of that though, and also choosing Pauline in this particular cup is actually a pretty cool choice in my opinion, because as far as I'm aware, in terms of the forms of what the country or the city that this track is actually based off from, this is obviously based off from New York in journey forms of the United States of America. So because of that though, it's filled to the brim with a lot of neon lights around here, and in addition to that though, it's about the fact that there's a jazzy music going on. So because of that, I actually really kind of like New York Minute, but I will admit though right away, very similar to the forms of how it does it for Tokyo Blur. It's nothing really groundbreaking or anything else like that, up until when it gets to the point until later down the road, to be more specifically until next month or something like that. Oh yeah, and something's worth noting for, as far as I do realize about something, well, not long now until the Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the movie, is almost approaching on us. So, I think fundamentally speaking though, is about the fact that I need to double check on the forms of the calendar, at some point during the forms event tomorrow anyway, just in case I can able to actually do a to-do list for the sake of the forms of what's to come during the forms of later on in December. So, yeah, everything else will become to expect at that point. So, oh jeez, we got owned by that blue shell, and of course the lightning strikes decides to able to kick in. So, as we expected, whenever we get into the massive lead, but regardless of such though, we still managed able to kick those computer players' butt no matter what though, especially concerning for the fact that obviously this is still 150cc after all, so anyway, that's pretty much about it for New York Minute. It was alright. I mean, it is actually the first ever city course that was actually introduced in Mario Kart Tour, so that's something, I suppose. So anyways, let's move on to... oh, we got ourselves the Super Mario Kart track returning here. And this time what appears to be by the forms of Mario Circuit 3. So, obviously, no matter what though is about the fact that I will admit though right away, I was a little bit disappointed with this track, because for one noticeable thing, the track layout looks exactly like the forms of how it does on not only the original counterpart, but it's also with the forms of the Mario Kart Wii version as well. Just because no matter what though, everything else is flat, no anti-gravity sections or anything else like that, it's just all pretty standard track. So because of that, and also I feel like the visuals are alright, but it's just about the fact that the only thing is cool about it is that, or to be more specifically, there's only one new change to this version compared to the other two counterparts, including Mario Kart Super Circuit in mind, is that they obviously added some more details, like for instance so many blocks, pipes, and especially noticeable there are some tons of flagpoles, so, which we've already technically saw that ever since in Journey forms of not only for its introductioning preview, but it's also with the forms of the introductioning preview for the likes of New York Minute as well, so yeah, I was a little bit disappointed about this track. It's alright and such, but hopefully it gets a bit better until when it gets to the point until on Wave 6, because my goodness, they did a massive well done for the sake of the forms of how that particular track is going to be put up with, so, but then again, that particular topic can wait until specifically for about next month or so. So because of that, yeah, not much else to say, apart from the fact that, well, today's date, of course, there's the, I would say that today is the 23rd of November today, in some cases in 2024 today, so, jeez, I just got owned by the phones that, oh my god, oh jeez, I totally forgot about that triple green shells to somehow show up with one of those computer players in our perspectives. But at least we got caught up for first place, although we won't get our hopes up at this point because it looks like that Princess Peach is actually getting a burst of speed right there. Oh, really? Okay, whatever. Anyway, so I just really wish if they were able to actually include the glider section, but aside from that, it's all pretty simplistic. So because of that though, well, at the very least they still managed to keep the actual dash panel at the end, but luckily for me, I get my massive comeback for first place. So despite getting owned by too many items like the triple green shells, bob arms, and pretty much everything, like lightning strikes included, I mean, that was actually a pretty lucky ending part. Even unlike the forms of how it does in the beginning portion of lap 3, it just goes all over the place. So, anyways, let's move on to the next track in Turnip Cup, and this one appears to be Kalimari Desert, and this track is obviously based off of Mario Kart 64, and what makes this version a lot more different compared to the forms of how it does it since in Mario Kart 64, alongside with the forms of Mario Kart 7, is that I think something tells me this is obviously based off of Mario Kart Tour after all, meaning about the fact that we might come across into not only one variant, but two variants in exactly the same time. So, as a result, I think in lap 1, it's going to be most likely self-explanatory, but until when it gets to the point until in lap 2, as you can tell, thanks to the forms of those arrow lights, something tells me that something else will about to able to show up at one point. So, I'm very curious to know what that's going to be represented for, so, anyways though, and also short things worth noting for is about the fact that I can't even believe we're getting very close towards the end of November already. Well, not so much just yet though, until next week. So I suppose no matter what though, I'm still pretty much pumped for the sake of the forms of I'm pretty super duper excited for able to, you know, finally get a chance to see Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on the big screen, which I suppose that particular topic can wait, and do it at some point in the next few days to come. So, well, what's this? It looks like there was actually that very random ramp decides able to show up at one point. Oh, this is interesting. We're actually going onto the actual, the train track. Okay, that's actually interesting. Especially it does kind of reminds me like I was, when I was a young hedgehog, that I was able to drive this bit in Journey Forms within a time trials mode, in Journey Forms within Mario Kart 64. Yeah, that's actually a pretty cool change around here. So I believe on the third and final lap, we are obviously going on to the halfway point on the tunnel section, or to be more specifically with the forms of that particular train track, and then obviously we're able to go back into the usual normal routes. So I actually really do like this change, especially concerning for the fact that it's pretty cool you can able to see that particular lap 3 thingy right there on the actual tunnel bit. So yeah, this is actually a pretty cool version of Kalimari Desert, and also the colors do seem able to get a lot more vibrant around here, even though, like I said before, it's obviously based off from Tor, so I wouldn't be too surprised about that point. Unfortunately though, this is the last Mario Kart 64 track they decided to choose, for the sake of the forms of the DLC department, so it's kind of unfortunate though, because I was assuming about the fact that they'll choose like, plenty of more Mario Kart 64 courses, but oh well. Anyways, let's move on to the final track in Turnip Cup, and some people seem to say it's probably their fan favorite course in the entire cup. That's what appears to be Waluigi Pinball. And obviously this track is based off from Mario Kart DS, which I will say, I am super happy to see Waluigi Pinball makes its appearance in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, not only because of its gorgeous visuals, but it's also, if you couldn't tell from the background music, it's actually inspired by, it has the exactly same musical track as the forms of DS Wario Stadium. I'm guessing it's probably because no matter what though, I think this is the only time they did somehow reuse the actual music track, based off in the forms of being one of those tracks or anything else like that. So yeah, as I was saying about the fact that not only the visuals looks absolutely stunning and gorgeous, but it's also a really dang cool racetrack in mind. Even especially noticeable, we can actually drive into the actual pinball machine, and in addition to that, much like the forms of how it does it on Mario Kart DS, as well as Mario Kart 7, basically though, we still need to watch out for the forms of those particular pinballs themselves, and especially noticeable with these flippers, and of course the beginning portion is super duper cool as well. And of course, no matter what though, the actual presentation, as I said before, is based off of Mario Kart Tour, meaning about the fact that there's quite a lot of changes around here in terms of the forms of the actual visual aesthetics. Like for example, the actual 2D artwork of Waluigi is now shown up, not only in the forms of that particular monitor screen, but also with the actual pinball table as well. So yeah, that's something worth noting for, and it's a cool thing that Waluigi can able to experience that particular racetrack again after the events of Mario Kart DS, despite that Waluigi was absent in Journey forms within Mario Kart 7, being a playable characters department, because he somehow got replaced by Honey Queen, which, truth be told, I wouldn't mind about the fact that with Honey Queen has also been absent in Journey forms within this game in particular. Well, let's face it though, because Honey Queen is just a pretty odd choice for a playable character in a Mario Kart game nonetheless, especially concerning for the fact that I will admit though right away that Mario Kart 7's character roster is pretty weird, especially it's also very bizarre at the same time, but it does have some cool selections, don't get me wrong, but it's just that with Honey Queen's introduction, well, it's kind of odd. So, which gee, no wonder why that Honey Queen, she was not going to be playable again during the forms of Mario Kart Tour, and as well as the forms of Mario Kart 8, including 8 Deluxe as well. Well, that's just mainly because her choice is pretty weird, so. But apart from those side things though, I will admit though, the Turnip Cup is actually really good. With one particular downside to this though, and now this appears to be body forms of, I found that SNES or Super Nintendo track Mario Circuit 3, it just feels underwhelming to me. I mean, nothing bad or anything, it's just it's purely simple for the most part. I mean, hopefully, again, once we get to the forms of the later cups in Journey forms of it not only in Wave 3, but also all the way up to Wave 6, mind you. So hopefully it should make things a little bit more improvement over the likes of in Wave 1, so, but that's just me. But I will say the highlight in Turnip Cup to me, which appears to be not only Kalimari Desert, because it did something a little bit differently, but also with Waluigi Pinball, just because I'm very glad that Waluigi Pinball does return, but this time in gorgeous HD, and the colors are so vibrant this time around. So, at the very least though, it does kind of remind me like I was experiencing something casino themed. So, But that was it for the Turnip Cup. So all in all, a pretty good cup with one particular downside in my opinion. But regardless of such though, I had a really great time with this, despite getting owned by the forms of so many items. During the course have been Mario Circuit 3, but that's the way how I feel about it, I guess. So, once again, we've achieved the 3-star rankings, as we expected. So, yeah, pretty coolio and awesome throughout. So, too easy. That was a piece of cake. So, I digress. So, I suppose we should probably end things off this point right here, so join us next time, or tomorrow actually, for more of Let's Play of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the Booster Course Pass, is that we get on to the second and the final cup for Wave 2, and that is the Propeller Cup, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Later fellas.